I think in an ideal world that it wouldn't be necessary to have reserved hours for women and non-binary people. So it's good to keep in mind, you know, what a long-term goal would be, which to me would be that everybody can use the gym and everybody could use the gym feeling safe at any time of day, you know, or night. Yeah. So if that's sort of the long-term goal, then I suppose I think of this as a step towards that goal, in the sense that what it does is recognize the status quo, which is that not everybody does feel safe using the gym. And so in order to make it so that we live in the world where people can walk freely regardless of, you know, race, class, gender, sexuality, gender presentation, and so on, then we need to recognize that that's not the case currently. Not all men do sexually harass women at the gym or do things that maybe seem friendly but actually are sexist, like assume that women don't know what they're doing, lifting weights in particular areas of the gym, for example, and so might say in a very friendly way, you know, let me help you, not thinking what the larger context of that is, not thinking about the ways in which, you know, you wouldn't make the same assumptions about men, whether or not they're able to use the equipment in the gym. Or, you know, you might think, well, it's a compliment to say nice ass or you look great or whatever, not thinking that a woman who's experiencing that compliment doesn't know that you're not a jerk who's going to take it further. Everyone just wants to be free to live their lives, right? Free to live their lives, whether that means lifting weights or going for a run, you know, and not having it be a big deal, not having their bodies commented on. In terms of non-binary folks, not having it be like, you know, what are you doing here, or what are you, like that kind of stuff that happens. You know, I have a lot of cisgendered women in my classes, and they say like, this is what happens in the gym, or if it's not me whose body's being commented on, it's my friends, and then if I say something, I'm called a bitch, and then, you know, then it becomes a confrontation, and I don't want that. I just want to go to the gym, you know. And so if that weren't happening, and if that weren't something that time and time again I hear about, then it wouldn't be a problem. You know, we wouldn't need to have these spaces and these kinds of hours. But the fact that this continues to be a problem means that in order to begin to solve it, we need to do something. And lots of places, like I went to the University of Toronto 100 years ago, and we had women's only hours then, you know, and that was something that people used because, you know, even though something might not happen in regular hours, the fact that something could happen made it so that people felt safer going at those designated hours. In order for something to be discrimination, it has to have power behind it, right? There has to be a systemic, you know, ism connected to it, and so it doesn't work that way, right? That if it were that everybody were freely using the gym all the time, and nobody was getting harassed, assaulted, and whatever, then it would seem strange to say, oh, okay, only, you know, we're going to exclude people here. But given that the exclusion seems to be happening along the lines of sexism, racism, homophobia, then the sort of tentative measure to go against that is something that's working towards equity. And it is, I mean, it's always the same question, right? It's the same with affirmative action policies or this kind of stuff, where in order to change the status quo, you have to make changes, right? And then people, especially from dominant groups, don't like it. If I didn't teach this stuff and I didn't talk about it, I wouldn't necessarily know, oh, this is a pattern. This isn't just when I go to the gym, somebody's like, oh, can I help you, miss? You know, now ma'am. This is a thing that happens, and that's part of sexism. Every student who comes here should be able to access that space, as they should be able to access the space of the university. You know, like that's what it's here for. It's here for people to learn. It's a community of learning. So it is the university's responsibility to make it so that it is that. And I think we've seen a lot in terms of the emphasis on Indigenous achievement, right? That the onus is on the university to do some of that work.